3MDs. So today, it's good and all that we're here and we're able to have a platform to talk to you guys, but I think what's important is to tell you the obstacles that we went through and what got us here. So we're going to start that off, right? Yeah. So my boys are going to tell you what happened in their past lives that got them here, the struggles, the tribulations, and things that we learned coming here. So
as most of you guys may know, this whole process isn't easy. I'm pretty sure everybody has already gone through their own fair share of obstacles just trying to get into this whole thing of medicine. But definitely along the line, I would definitely say that one of the biggest things that sort of kind of struck me was just adjusting to the whole college difficulty in terms of academics, in terms of balancing everything out. High school was pretty great, it was fun. Certain high schools, certain places have more resources than others. Certain places can prepare you for the college environment more than others. I'm pretty sure you guys can agree. Just me transitioning to that was sort of kind of it was big. But definitely I would say one of the biggest things that helped me out was just surrounding myself with people who I noticed were more adept at that, at the college level, you know what I mean? And just looking at some of the things that they did and sort of kind of just emulating it and incorporating it into my own way. So one of my first crazy experiences in undergrad was calculus. Calculus was terrible. I'm pretty sure y'all can agree. Man, calculus was my first nightmare. I don't have no shame in my game in saying this. That class literally made me call my mom on the phone one time after that final, and the tears just started coming down. The tears just started coming down. I got a D in it, and it was just that was really the first time I was wow, this college shit is really no joke. This college stuff is no joke. So what it did though, it really forced me to look back and look at some of the things that I could do differently. What were some of the areas in weak areas that I was lacking in, or what are the areas that I had to make up for? So next following semester, I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna retake it. I'm just gonna knock it out the way. I was in office hours pretty much every week, and I was studying with people in the class, like I said, who I noticed were more adept. I wasn't afraid to ask for help and how do you approach this subject? Because the sciences came pretty naturally to me. That semester actually, I did pretty well. My first semester of college, I did pretty well. My science courses were great, but calculus really just kicked my ass. You might have to bleep that out. But for lack of a better word, it really kicked my ass. But that next following semester, I I got into the office hours. I was actually, I actually organized my days in terms of how much am I going to allocate, how much time I'm going to allocate to this class, how much time I'm going to allocate to this, and it just forced me to become a better student. In that semester, I ended up getting one of my highest GPAs. I ended the semester with a 3.7. Retaking that course, ended up getting an A in it, and then I did well in my other courses as well. But the reason for me just saying that is that along this path you will find a lot of hiccups, and that's just one story I have to share. We'll take it on to these guys. You guys can share your experience.
Likewise, compared to my guy Derek, calculus is also a very, very brutal subject for me. I actually went into my final, I believe I was failing, and at that point, everyone had dropped the class, and I was just you know what, man, I'm gonna thug it out.
As semester goes on, people just drop.
Miraculously, I don't know how I did it. I ended up making a C plus in that class. And I think I made a 32 on my first final. So I don't even know why I didn't drop the class, but I guess that little bit of fear and courage, I don't know, God gave me that C.
Yeah.
That really hurt my GPA because it was a 4.0 hour credit class. So likewise, and don't play with those 4.0 credit classes.
No, it's serious.
Yeah.
It's serious.
The next semester, I just, similar to Derek, I invested in going to office hours I think I was there every time. And then I was able to ask a professor things that I was not picking up in class. And even when the professor sees that you're trying to learn, they're gonna make time to understand that you understand it in the information in your type of way. They'll tell you stuff that they might not tell you in class.
Yeah, that's true. Those office hours are key.
Yeah, they'll give you those little bits and gems, and that's what really, really helped me. And I also ended up that second semester with one of my highest GPAs. in undergrad before going to med school.
And I'm pretty sure that you can you agree that that forced you, that like sort of kind of like set the tone going forward?
Definitely, definitely set the tone for me. So like when I started taking classes like OChem, biochem, genetics, those were, I knew the type of mindset I had to have going into those classes. So even though, you know, I was still fighting, you know what I mean? I came out on top because like I knew how to go about and navigate through such a difficult class.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, so I think one of the most difficult things for me was just learning how to navigate in college in general, right? Like, my parents didn't go to college, so I didn't know what classes to take, how to line up my schedules. Some of the not admissions committee, but the advisors at the school, they would, you know, say, oh, you need to take these classes at this time during, you know, this quarter. But in reality, like, you didn't really have to.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
there's a lot of students who matched up certain hard classes with easier classes that backed them up. My advisor was like, look, you need to take calculus, you need to take biochem, you need to take all these at once. And a lot of the classes, same thing, like, you feel like you're not doing well in the classes and you're comparing yourself to others, but others are not taking the same load as you are, right? So it's like learning how to space all these things out so you can really dedicate these classes.
Definitely. For those watching, especially like, you know, some pre-meds maybe in high school and whatnot, you know, at least coming into your first year, I would definitely say try to space it out and not try to like hammer yourself too much at once. That's definitely one thing that I wish that I didn't do, because I took Gen Chem, Gen Bio, calculus.
That's a trifecta. That's a trifecta.
And it does not have to be like that.
Actually, I did the same thing, and I ended up I think I dropped bio, and I ended up taking my first bio class my first semester of my second semester of my freshman year in undergrad. That enabled me to like lighten the load and really focus on like general chemistry, like my whatever intro class they wanted me to take, and then calculus, which were like 7 hard core classes that I needed for medical school. Right. So just
ease into it.
Long story short, just ease into it. You don't have to always rah. You know what I'm saying?
You don't. You want to do it smart.
There are people who ended up taking like the orgo like their senior year. There are people who end up taking biochem their senior year. It's not the worst thing. You know, sometimes there's some people who do it early just so they can have a free senior year. But hey, if you are the type of person where you had to wait to take these classes later on, then space them out, because at the end of the day, it's the GPA and the grades that matter more than how many times you took them, how many courses you took at one point.
Definitely. All right, so I think we can definitely move on to our next segment. We're gonna get into the MCAT, and that's the big baller right there. Yeah. So we're just gonna talk about some of the struggles that we experienced in terms of just preparing for the MCAT and taking it. Ken, why don't you start?
I'll take that lead.
Yeah, you start with it. So right off the bat, how was your experience with the MCAT?
So my experience with the MCAT was like really challenging. Long story short, I took it 4 times.
4 times.
I took my first one in my fall semester of my junior year, because initially I wanted to apply to medical school. So I went to start medical school right after undergrad. I know, right?
A lot of us.
I know, right? And looking back on it, that MCAT just, in my eyes, that it just didn't count. I had no business taking it because I wasn't mentally prepared or even academically prepared to fight with that quote-unquote beast, right? So after I got my score back, it humbled me, and I ended up saying, you know what, let me just take some time off. Like, medical school, it's gonna happen eventually, and I don't have to force it, right? Yeah. So I ended up deciding to go study abroad, which is actually one of the best decisions that I've made in my life. Met a whole bunch of dope people, traveled the world. So it was a win-win. I took it right after. So I ended up taking it again.
It's all good, bro.
Ended up taking it again my junior year. I ended up taking it again my senior year, and I improved.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. So you actually took it during your junior year of your first MCAT you took was during your junior year of undergrad?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for those. So you took your MCAT during your junior year of college. Now, for those who are watching, why would you say that was a bad or a good idea?
All right.
At the time?
So if you're the type of person who wants to start medical school right after undergrad, it's ideal to take it your junior year. So by your it's ideal to take it after the first semester of your junior year. So by second semester, you've got your MCAT score back. At that point, you can start preparing applications, start asking for recommendation letters, and then you usually apply the summer before your junior year, before your senior year in undergrad. So when your senior year starts, you're on the interview trail and taking interviews for medical school. So by the spring semester of your senior year, you would have hypothetically been accepted, and then you would start your the summer right after you graduate undergrad. So for me, that's initially what I wanted to do. Like I said, it didn't go that way. So I ended up taking it again my senior year. Yeah. This time my senior year, wanting to apply right after my gap year. After one gap year.
So I have a question for you, right?
Yeah, what's up?
That you're taking it for taking this exam, this beach 4 times.
Yep.
What can you say, just with your whole experience with that? Have you noticed that it's made you better in certain aspects?
Well,
in terms of just like preparing for stuff, maybe even just tests that we take in class now.
100%. What it really taught me, because a lot of times people get an MCAT score and they look at it and they kind of like make that score their life, and they don't look at it as maybe like a learning opportunity of how to improve. Right. And then oftentimes we're not real with ourselves with the mistakes that we made and maybe our lack of preparation leading up to the MCAT. Definitely. Granted, personally, I don't think the MCAT is the best test to determine who gets into medical school and who doesn't. But at the end of the day, at this point, it's something that you have to take, right?
Right.
So what I did from my first time, I used a study course, and personally that didn't go well for me because I felt like I didn't want someone teaching me information that I needed to know. So I ended up doing exam crackers they offer, and I thought their books were very easy to read. And they all even give you a 10-week course that you can incorporate with your schedule. And each time I got my score back, I could have given up. I could have thought, okay, let me go pursue another profession. But ultimately, with me personally, I knew that, okay, if medicine is something that I wanted to do, if I had to take the MCAT 7 times, bro, it was gonna get to.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
period. Because that's just how I'm built, right?
And with that, actually, so Trevor, I want to ask you, right? I'm pretty sure before we applied, we all heard this okay, you can only take the MCAT once and absolutely once. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree that the MCAT is like a one-shot thing, or is it something that if you need to retake, you just what's your thoughts on that?
I'm here and I didn't just take it once.
All right.
So I mean, a lot of people that I've talked to, they don't take it once. Even if you get a great score, you always feel like there's room for improvement, right? You always feel like you can do better on this test because it's not necessarily a test that tests your intelligence, right? It's a test that really tests your test-taking skills, right? So I think that's where you have to differentiate and learn, okay, this is a skill that I can learn, right? Taking the MCAT is a skill that you can learn. Like, everybody can learn it. I think with going through college and going through medical school now is you have to learn when you're studying for something, you always want to start with the things that you're worst at.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because when you go over information,
you learn the hard way.
When you go over information that you know,
it's an ego boost, right? It's just
trick yourself into thinking oh, I know this stuff, I don't really have to study it. And then when it gets closer to the test, you're like, I've never seen this stuff before in my life. Right. So, I mean, that's just one trick to get around taking the MCAT. I still, honestly, if I took the MCAT right now, I still don't know if I would do amazing on it, right?
Yeah,
but ain't doing that.
But at the end of the day, I can do really well on med school tests, so that tells you the difference, right? I feel like these medical school tests test you on how much energy you're willing to put in to learn the information, and the MCAT is I'm giving you the information, I'm gonna ask you in 1,000 different ways. I want to know if you have the capacity to try to, understand what the test taker is trying to ask you.
100%. Yeah.
So, long story short, I mean, for those who are watching, if you feel discouraged by your MCAT or you feel like you've taken it maybe more than once, if this is something that you still really want, put in that work, put in that effort. I mean, it's not, you know, one bad test score is not gonna like eliminate you from this whole thing.
It absolutely does not even matter once you get into medical school. Once you're in, it's like, bro, like that thing's it's really in the past.
It's a done deal.
So for those who do have to take it multiple times, like Trev and I, it's more of like just picking yourself back up. If medicine is something you really want to do, then at the end of the day, it's not. It's a matter of how many times you get back up after you get hit.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we were the type of people who were like, nah, bro, this is gonna get done.
Yeah.
So if we had to take that thing 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, God forbid, you know.
Yeah.
But if we had to do that, then we would have done that. But ultimately, it's just about learning from your mistakes.
Yep.
Spending the majority of the time doing practice questions instead of trying to memorize
practice questions.
That's kind of what put me over the curve, because I was really stubborn to that at first. I thought, okay, let me just memorize this textbook, and then the questions would come. But when doing the questions and going through every single question, so for example, answer to question 1 is C. Now I know C is right, okay, but why was A wrong? Why was B wrong? Why was D wrong? So after doing multiple questions, if I take an exam for 1 hour, it'll take me probably 3 hours to review everything, and that's what put me over.
That's where you really get the money. It's just funny that you mentioned that. And you know, I'm very fortunate that I only had to take the exam once, but what really saved me on the MCAT was literally, I think, out of like the 3-4 months that I took to study for it, it was those last 3 weeks that I really just honed in on questions. Because honestly, the best way I would describe it is like, you can, you know, for example, like taking like a driving test. Before your driving test, you know, you go to the driving school and then you have they teach you, okay, you know, stop sign, you stop, you read it. But, you know, you're not really gonna know how to drive until you actually get in the car and actually drive. And when you start to drive, you actually see like, okay, this is a lot harder than I expected. You gotta pay attention to so many different things. It's a completely different experience. So with the MCAT, it's really like, you know, like they said, how to take the test. And the best method of doing that is literally throw yourself in those questions. You know, go to the AMC website, get those question banks. You know, obviously you want to solidify yourself with the content, the material, but you know, don't just rely on that. You have to like get in and do as many practice questions as you can. So I definitely think
you can also apply for the fee assistance waiver for those who might not have access to all the AMC material. I believe if your parents make under a certain amount of money, then they offer you discounted prices, and they give you, I think, 15 or 20 free applications, primary applications. Then a lot of these medical schools, if the AMC waiver applied for the primary application, they'll apply for secondary application. So that saved a lot of my friends a couple thousands